The worst thing ever is trying to put on a necklace with long nails. Trick. Use the side of the nail. Took me a minute. Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's been like 6 or 7 months. Honestly, who's really even counting? Who's counting? I haven't been on YouTube for a while, and that's because my life fell apart. And also my mental health kind of fell to pieces, and I've been using the time to just pick everything back up and put myself back together. But you're seeing this video now, not because I'm fully pieced back together, but most of the pieces are back together, and I feel confident that I can start making YouTube videos again. And honestly, I miss YouTube. I do. I really love making YouTube videos. So I decided to title this video Why I Left Montreal. And that's just because most of the traffic that comes to my channel is people that are looking for content about living in Montreal. But I don't live there anymore. I thought I'd let you know why. So the quick and short story is the relationship that I had moved to Montreal for ended. But that's not necessarily why I left Montreal, because I actually had a really good job there and I could afford to sustain myself by myself over there. So it did come down to me sitting down and weighing the pros and cons of staying in Montreal. And if you watch to the end of the video, then I'll outline those reasons why I ultimately decided to move back home to Ontario. So this video is not only going to be about Montreal, but it's also going to be about mental health during the pandemic, because my mental health I don't even have words for what happened. So mental health is already something that is not very easy to deal with, but I do feel like the pandemic multiplied every feeling. So throughout my time in Montreal, I started dealing with chronic loneliness, and I discovered what chronic loneliness was just based off of, reflecting on how I was feeling all the time. And then I started Googling stuff, and I found a video on YouTube, which I will link below, that was explaining chronic loneliness. And I was like, that's it. That is what I'm going through. That right there, that's it. This was a very painful experience for me. Basically, I never realized that moving so far away from family and friends would have such a huge effect on me. You know, I went from seeing my friends and my family every month to seeing my family once every 3 months, and seeing some of my friends once a year, and others of my friends not at all, to be honest. Once I discovered like what I was dealing with, I did try to find ways that I can try and make friends in Montreal. Making friends is not something that is easy for me as an adult with my personality type, and just like how picky I am about the kind of people that I want around me. So it was even harder, you know, being in this city where I didn't know anybody. The language barrier did not help, and I ended up sort of becoming friends with my ex's friends' girlfriends, which I don't ever recommend, because you become like super dependent on that person for your social interactions. And to be honest, I don't want to be friends with anyone where I feel like I have to be friends with them. Like I want to make friends the natural way, where it's like, I like you, let's hang out, let's be friends, not I don't have anyone else to be friends with, so I guess I gotta be friends with you. So that was one thing that was already affecting my mental health before the pandemic even started. And then obviously when the pandemic started, I went from seeing my family every 3 months to seeing my family, I saw them once in 2020, and I felt it mentally. Like it was too much. It was way too much. So on top of the chronic loneliness, then I was also dealing with the toxicity of the relationship that I was in, and that was affecting me mentally. When a global pandemic starts and you're like isolated all the time with only that person, so the toxicity was there, multiplied it. I don't think that I was willing to see it for what it was while I was in it. But when you look back and you reflect on things, I was dumb. So there's the chronic loneliness, there's a toxic relationship, and then just throw in the global pandemic and the lockdown. It was just the icing on the cake to just annihilate my mental health. I'm gonna try and talk about this without getting upset and without crying. And like I wrote out everything that I wanted to talk about because I didn't want to get upset. I even put off making this video for months because every time I wanted to make it, I was getting too emotional. But I just have to accept that it's always going to be something that kind of pulls on my heartstrings a little bit. But by the end of 2020, my mental health had gotten to a point where it started to affect my physical body. Like my body started shutting down. First thing that started was like I couldn't sleep. I'm not the type of person who can't sleep. I can always sleep. I never had a problem sleeping. I couldn't eat, and I love food. I would force myself to eat because it was getting to a point where it was like I wasn't eating breakfast, I wasn't eating dinner, and at lunch at work I would just have a coffee, and I'm like, you know, like this is not healthy. So I started trying to force myself to eat food, and I would drink water instead of coffee. Like, so immediately after I eat, my stomach would be going wild, and I would have to go to the bathroom. So then first I was like, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I have the stomach flu or something. So I stopped eating, and I would only eat like, I don't know, bread and stuff. And even when I wasn't eating, it was like my body was forcing everything out. My stomach was I had so much stomach pain. I always needed to do number 2. Like it was like I had diarrhea, but there was nothing in my system to push out. So it was just like, sorry, this is too much details, but it was just weird. Like I could just tell that my body was malfunctioning. I had a hard time concentrating on my work, and I was like, I had like a lot of random outbursts of crying. Like I would be doing my work, and it's like I'm trying so hard not to cry because I'm working with my coworkers. Like I don't need to be bust out crying while I'm at work. Like I could do that on the drive home, but it would like I couldn't hold it in, so I would have to excuse myself and go to the bathroom to cry. You know, I would be driving and I would be crying so uncontrollably that I couldn't even focus on driving. I would have to pull over and stop so I could just cry, but I couldn't control it. Yeah, it was getting really bad. So I was optimistic about job hunting because now I had 2 years of experience working in my field of study. But to my horrifying surprise, it would take me 4 months to find a job. And I was going to interviews. I was applying to so many jobs, so many, hundreds. I know it had a lot to do with the lockdowns in Ontario. You know, they would open up and then 2 weeks later they'd lock down. And I remember I had interviews set up, and then when they reinstated the lockdown, you know, the hiring manager would call me and be like, oh, we're gonna have to cancel your interview, you know, due to the way things are. It's just not going the way that we planned. It's very disheartening. It took me 4 months to find a job. I hated that job. I was working 4 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. and I worked Friday to Tuesday. So I didn't get my weekends, I didn't get my evenings. I had Wednesday and Thursday off. Like, who can I see? What can I do? But I'm still grateful that I had that job. But I did end up finding a job in my field, which I actually start tomorrow. By the time this video is edited and uploaded, I've probably already started the job. Even thinking about that, like finding a job in my field of study, it took me 6 months. I'm job hunting with no money, no energy. I'm depressed. I was sleeping on an air mattress, and all I could do was keep thinking about like where I was a couple months ago and beating myself up about it. You know, I was just disappointed in myself. Felt like I fell on my face. But I was being really mean to myself. You know, I would call myself stupid a lot. But it makes me think about a quote that I heard from my favorite YouTuber, where she said that life is like a slingshot. And sometimes you have to move, it has to pull you back so it can shoot you forward. And definitely I have been pulled back. I kind of feel like God came to me and saw that like the foundation of everything that I was doing was just built off of unhappiness and toxicness, and he just ripped the rug from underneath me and everything just crumbled, and I was so upset. I was so upset. But did me a favor because now I have the chance to start over from zero and do things properly. So things that I did to rebuild, It's the first thing that I did in January because honestly, I was a little bit uncomfortable with the state of my mental health. I signed up for therapy with BetterHelp. I do not have enough subscribers or anything like that to be sponsored by BetterHelp, so this is just me genuinely talking about my experience. But I kept seeing them advertised on YouTube, so I thought I'd give them a try, and I did 4 sessions with them for a month. They lined me up with a therapist who was a Black woman who was also of Caribbean descent, so that was really cool because I felt like she understood a little bit more my upbringing, given that my father is Caribbean. The therapy did help, but I ended up canceling it because it is expensive. And, you know, I had thought I was gonna find a job really quickly, but I didn't, so I couldn't be unemployed and paying for therapy. It was just too much. I know that there's like resources and stuff that you could use, but I was just a mess. Okay, like I was still trying to figure out like transferring all my documents and stuff, so I ended up just canceling the therapy and doing my own personal research on one, relationships, because I needed to understand why I keep entering terrible relationships. And I also wanted to understand more about myself and like, you know, why I always want to run away, or like why certain things have affected me. I watch a lot of videos on Psych2Go on YouTube. That's a really good channel. I recommend it. It's also very easy to like, when someone does you wrong in a relationship, like this is the most I will say, like the person cheated on me and they used my card to deal with it. But as much as you can like look at past relationships and say like, this person did me wrong, and this person did me wrong, and that person did me wrong, and that person did this, and that person treated me that way, if you keep ending up in these relationships or dating these type of people, you have to kind of look back at yourself and ask yourself like, what is it about me that is attracted to people like that? What is it about me that attracts people like that? You know, or what is it about me that ends up in these situations and stays in these situations and accepts these situations? Why do I keep ignoring red flags? Another thing that I did to help like rebuild, other than therapy and self-reflection, was I redecorated my room. Like I did like a makeover. I don't know if it's a makeover. I just redid the whole room because I personally think that, well, one, when you look good, you feel good. But I also think that your surroundings affect how you feel. If you're surrounded by like junk and garbage and mess, I do feel like you will start to feel discombobulated and like a mess. And I was going from having my own place to moving into my mom's basement, and just moving in here, I'm gonna show y'all. It was too depressing for me. I'm like, I love glamour. I can't do this. I can't do this. But drama. I ended up repainting the room and just setting it up in a way that fits my personality, and it completely changed my mood. I'm almost done. I got one more ghetto ass wall left. You know, every day I was waking up in here, I felt sorry for myself. And as I got the room to look and feel more like Kendall's space, when I would wake up, I would feel more at home and I would feel less like a guest in my mom's house. Another thing I did to help rebuild was I created a mood board, and it's actually hanging right here. I made quite a few mood boards, and looking back at them, I do notice that not necessarily every single thing on it came true, but a decent amount of the things that I put on my mood boards came to fruition. So this time when I made my mood board, I packed it up every inch with every possible word that I can manifest. I was like, yo, it's worth a try. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that nothing comes from it. And the best thing that could happen is that I manifest all of the things that I put there, and that would be pretty dope. And honestly, I've already started manifesting quite a few of the things on there. So make a mood board. I also started creating lists. So I created my to-do list of everything I need to do to get my life, like to get back on my feet. Sometimes you just have to put your intentions out there. You have to say it, and you have to know that's what you want, and you'll get it. Another thing that helped me to rebuild was job hunting. I kind of feel like job hunting affected my mental health as well because of all the disappointment, but it also kept me busy. Like I was always looking, like always looking. I stopped for like a month because I was getting disheartened, but I was always looking. And I started meditating. I haven't done it in a while, but I started meditating at night because really and truly, like, my insomnia kind of stayed for a whole while from it started at the end of December. But meditating really helped me be able to fall asleep. My favorite audio clip that I would meditate to is one that SZA collaborated with an artist on, and I loved it because it had affirmations in it. So I'll also link that as well. That helped me a lot. Ultimately, why did I really decide to leave Montreal? I had a good job, you know, I could afford to sustain myself there, but I came to the conclusion that it wasn't worth it. For one, I had been there for 2 years and still didn't learn French. So I would have had to pay for my own classes, and like, I don't know, I just never really went out of my way to do that. So I guess I could just blame myself for that. I will still stand by the fact that learning a new language is not easy. It is very hard because it's not like I went there and I didn't try. You know, I was using Duolingo. I would succumb to the peer pressure of my coworkers as they forced it down my throat to learn to speak French against my will without me asking them for help. But I don't care, that's okay. You know, at least they cared enough to help me practice. Most of the places I went to were French places, and I couldn't communicate with anybody. Like the building I lived in, couldn't communicate with anybody. When I would go to the post office, couldn't communicate with anybody. Like I would have had to move either downtown or back to Snowden. I don't know, it's just very restricting. Another thing that affected my decision as well was thinking about like, how did I feel living like truly alone by myself during a global pandemic. In January, the lockdown that Quebec put in place, it had a curfew. I think it started from December, I can't remember, but it was like you couldn't leave the house before 5 a.m. and you had to be indoors by 7 p.m. They have multiple curfews. Like I mean, there was one after I left that was like 8:30, but when I was there, the curfew was 7 p.m. So I was like, you know, can I handle being this alone all the time? And I also don't have any friends here whatsoever. You know, I would be completely isolated, and I've already dealt with the chronic loneliness. It just wasn't something that was appealing to me. Another question I asked myself was, did I see myself living in Montreal long term? No. People were just too mean. I just couldn't do it. I can't see myself staying there forever. I never really felt like I was a part of the city. I kind of just felt like a visitor. Did I mention that the people were mean? I feel like I did. I think one of my favorite things about making YouTube videos about Montreal is that I get messages in French telling me to go back to Ontario. Well, I went back. Are you happy? Calling me names and swearing at me in French. So I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but it never felt right. And maybe it's because I finally found a job in my field of study, but it's mostly because the things that I had listed out that I needed to take care of had been taken care of, and I'm feeling more like myself again, you know, happy and confident, and I've been wearing crop tops again. The new job is definitely icing on my beautiful new cake. So there will not be any more Montreal content unless there's, I don't know, anything else I need to get off my chest. I am back living in Ontario. So if there's anything that you want to know about Ontario that I could possibly provide information about, you know, do not be afraid to ask. But as for my content, I think I'm just gonna go back to doing the things that I love doing, you know, review videos and hair videos and DIY projects and makeovers, like bedroom makeover. Maybe I'll make over my mom's bathroom. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you, because I don't even know how long this is gonna be. Thank you for your eyes and for your ears and for your time. Make sure that you leave a comment below, like this video, and subscribe. I'm almost at 700 subscribers. The goal is 1,000. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long road, but I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Bye.